just been a tremendous player on our football team.
So, Peter, I mean, tell the story. You're a storyteller. The story of Sam Darnold is sort of unlike any that we've ever seen in the history of the sport.
You know the stops, and by this point, after 2 weeks of Super Bowl buildup, you know his career resume. What you don't know, maybe, is that his whole entire approach to this is no resentment, no bitterness. I needed that to all happen to get to where I am today. Spoke with Jordan Palmer, who's his personal quarterbacks coach since college last week. He said the same approach that he's had to his entire career, where just focus on today, focus on my teammates, is how he handled Super Bowl week. So there is never this up or down. He was never going to be awestruck by the bright lights last night because, okay, it's another game. What's fascinating, though, is you heard him yesterday with Alex Smith in the postgame, and Alex is like, hey, man, like your story. He goes, I know you want me to cry. Like, I'm not that guy. Like, I'm just not going to sit here and be a ball of tears. Whereas Baker Mayfield has this giant chip on his shoulder, or you see Michael Jordan hugging the ball in the court. Darnold, it might as well have been like the third preseason game. Externally, we know internally it mattered, but that's his approach. It's so consistent, it's almost jarring.
Yeah, I look at it, that internal flame, though, oh, don't kid yourself.
No doubt.
It's burning big time. And when I see it, I said it earlier, was yesterday about a champion. You know, to be a champion, you got to believe in yourself when nobody else does. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what this kid is. And when people, oh, no, you're going to throw more mud on him. You're not good enough. You're not doing this. It could have been so easy for him to just say, you're right. That he's like, no, hell no. I know I'm a champion. And I'm that guy. And I'll be dang, you know what? Congratulations, because you're a damn world champion.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe, and one thing I would say is I love that there's so many different narratives that we like accept as possible ways, and chip on your shoulder is like the only comeback story that we know. This is like new and it's different and it's real, which is cool. That he's like, no, I don't resent you. None of that stuff was, or that stuff was in my control, but I needed it and I'm here now. But I think the best way I could describe him, because we don't have a good parallel, is it feels like he was a guy who had a low floor and also a low ceiling. He's really raised that ceiling, because what he did against the Rams, that was incredible. Yes. That's like Hall of Fame level quarterback play in that game. The other games in the playoffs, it wasn't quite that, but it's still the fact that he has the ability to reach those heights and play within this system and not be ego about it. I think that's connected to the no chip thing. It's like he's not out here trying to prove everybody wrong.
Dan, you have believed in him from the very beginning. Obviously, he was drafted by the Jets. You and I were in our first year working together. You were telling me right from the beginning that you thought he had everything that it took, and obviously it was an unusual journey, but here he is.
Yeah, it's the greatest quarterback redemption story the NFL's ever seen, and he's got what all great quarterbacks have, amnesia. And I would tell you that he plays with an amnesia that few have. This is a young man that led the NFL in turnovers this year, then went into the postseason and didn't give the ball away.
Wow.
That hasn't happened since 2009 with Drew Brees. Great quarterbacks have amnesia. They never allow what just happened to impact what is going to happen next. That's why Sam played so well, and that's why they're Super Bowl champions. I actually thought he played well last night. That New England defense in person was fantastic. I thought the decision-making, which was the number one thing he needed to have, he had.
I'm not going to take the bait. You putting that bait out there for me, saying that you thought he was a champion last night, which was enough. He was not the engine of that offense.
No, I agree.
I don't think that I would categorize this as a good Sam Darnold game. It's a championship game. He didn't turn the ball over, but let's not get carried away. I know you got some preconceived notion about who you want him to be. He never quite turned into that quarterback.
I thought he played very well last night. I'm telling you, that defense was good. It was sticky. He took a ton of hits. I know statistically it wasn't this masterpiece, but when it comes to decision-making and ball placement, he played very well.
Early in the game, there were a couple of throws that you thought to yourself, ooh. Like,
they were misplaced balls.
He's going to throw the ball into some tight windows or whatever the expression is, harm's way, which was exactly what you think that the Patriots needed him to do. The Patriots weren't able to make the defensive play when they needed it. Rex, you were going to say.
No, I was going to say that this kid right here, one thing I know he does, he's had more wins than any quarterback in the league the last two seasons.
That's for sure.
To me, that's what he does. Those turnovers are, in my opinion, all right, it doesn't matter. You want him to play free. You want him to get after it and all that type of stuff. Brett Favre was pretty good quarterback, and he used to throw it all over the place. That's what this kid does. But in the biggest moments, no. If my team needs me to protect the football, that's how he played. All through the playoffs, not one turnover. Okay, so to me, no, I think we looked into those numbers a little bit too much. It's not like he's always reckless. You can play fast like that in the regular season when you got a defense like this.
Good point.
There we
All
go.
right? And so
There we
to
go.
me, that's what this thing's about. He knows who this team is. Number one, it's defense first.
Yeah.
It's defense first. Then it's, do I need to attack? He knows. Have we seen him win games in the biggest moment when he had to make a play? We darn sure did. Give this guy more credit than he deserves, or than we're talking about. No, he right now is playing at an elite level. How the hell can you win at least 15 games 2 years in a row, and we're saying this guy's not elite? Absolutely wrong.
I would say, to put the bow on it, Clint Kubiak also. This is a new offensive coordinator in his ear. Again, he had him in San Francisco, but you go through the different systems. He's worked with O'Connell. He's worked, of course, with the Jets. He was with Carolina. He's seen it all. He's got it. So now he's got this fully formed base of all these different offensive systems. He goes out there. He can operate it as well as anybody can. And after the game, we were talking about no emotion. Him and Kubiak were talking in the locker room. Green. It was like they were in the clubhouse at a golf. How you doing? Great. And there's no it's amazing, their demeanor.
I thought that what Sam said about the team earlier was about how they were unified, and it's like a cliche, but for this team, it does really feel like the support that he gets from that defense, he recognizes it. He sees it, he values it. The running attack from Kenneth Walker, he also sees and values all that. I think he understands the role that he holds on this team, and I think that we see him as a quarterback, so we're like, hey, let's lift him up. But he's like, hey, you look at these guys around me, this is the reason why we're here.
I also think we say this all the time. Quarterbacks are dependent on the circumstances in which they find themselves. I defy anyone to have been drafted by the Jets in 2018 and have looked any better than he looked. He went to Carolina at a time when that was a laughingstock franchise. To their credit, they're not anymore. But in that moment in time, they were. No one was going to overcome where he was. Then he finds himself with elite level coaching, which he has had at all three of these other stops. When he was a backup with Kyle Shanahan as his coach, and then with O'Connell, and now here in Kubiak, which I know it's not the same guy, but it is basically the same offensive system. He's a great example of how quarterbacks, if you take out like the top 3 or 4 guys, quarterbacks are as much a product of their circumstances as they are of anything else.
Oh, 100%. It's the most dependent position in all of sports, and he's a great example of.
Rocks at the screen right now. What do we have to do? We beat them 2 out of 3 times, and we just won a Super Bowl. You're telling me the Rams are our favorite over us? Fine, great, that's it, fine.
I also think you can make the case they have the best head coach in football right now.
And Mike McDonald. We haven't even said his name yet. We're 47 minutes in. Let's talk about him.
It feels like a new era in the NFL, and Mike McDonald
How
leading
so?
the charge. Because you're watching this head coach that is a defensive-minded head coach, so they have these old-school defensive principles with physicality and blocking and tackling, while also being X's and O's scheme diverse. And so there's this perfect combination. Is he the next Bill Parcells or Tony Dungy or Mike Tomlin or Bill Cowher, where this defensive-led head coach and organization is now once again reigning in the NFC and certainly in the NFL?
I think what I'm hearing from Dan, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, is like it comes back to foundational things in that when football was first started, like you were a football player, and we got more and more specialized. And I think this defense has done a different thing where they've gotten a little bit more general. And these guys are really good at a lot of different things. The flexibility is what makes it simple for them, and then it's complex for the defense because of what they're doing. And I'll push back on one thing that you said, Dan, is that it's like bringing in a new era. Like, no, the best coaches in football have been defensive coaches. So, like, that's not new.
No, the only point I was making with that was, like, it felt like 6 or 8 years ago it was the offensive coaches leading the way. And now it feels like, last year with Philadelphia.
So, like in a scheme standpoint, this offseason is going to be the offensive coaches trying to figure out what to do with these defenses that they're seeing now when it hasn't been like that in a while.
He was the last coach hired of that cycle, and there were several. He was the last one. He didn't play college football, didn't play pro football, and he makes them hit in OTAs. He makes them hit in training camp. Like, it's a different approach, and he's a different type of archetype than we've seen.
He now becomes the 3rd youngest head coach to win a Super Bowl. The other 2, younger than him, were Mike Tomlin and Sean McVay. And I don't remember the last time that a head coach got less attention, less discussion than Mike McDonald during this Super Bowl run. People haven't talked about him. They haven't acknowledged him. We're talking about him here, however many minutes into the show.
Yeah.
49 minutes into
It's
the
because
show.
y'all hate defense, that's why.
and it may just be, but
Well,
he is one of these great young coaches. And by the way, back to John Schneider.
Yeah.
Mike McDonald's wife was a cheerleader in Washington. Her family was from Washington.
He flew out across the country to Seattle, and the reason he took the Seattle job over Washington, which was calling him, was because his belief in John Schneider and the team he could.
Well, let's make the bigger picture point here, though. They hired Mike Macdonald. Every NFL team is trying to hire the young Sean McVay. Literally every team in the NFL is just trying to clone Sean McVay. They want to put him into a copier and spit out copies of him, and they just keep hiring guys who look like him and coach like him and do what he does.
That's the problem. Like, you have to find the new guy, because nothing about Mike Macdonald feels like he's not super personable in the way that Sean McVay is. Like, different guys coach and have success in different ways. The idea that you can follow someone else's blueprint, I think, is the fool's errand. You find a guy who's authentic and legitimate leader, you give him the support that he needs.
Neither Mike Macdonald or Clint Kubiak are going to be hosting like Jimmy Kimmel anytime soon.
That's probably true.
This is it.
But they have the most important trophy at the end of the season. I'm going to lose you here because you have to run in a little bit. Let me ask you, is there cause for concern about the Patriots coming out of this playoff run? I'm going to say this about Drake May. He was the runner-up for MVP. He was the second youngest quarterback ever to start a Super Bowl. He had a brilliant year, and for all we know, his shoulder was really bothering him last night. He played 4 great defenses in this postseason and really struggled. The Chargers, the Texans, the Broncos, and now the Seahawks. What are the right things to say about him coming out of this season?
This is just the beginning. And last night does not even register for me when it comes to thinking about what New England accomplished this year. They were ahead of schedule. The reality was Seattle was exactly where they were supposed to be. New England was where they weren't supposed to be. This was a year where they established a foundation of we're back. Their young quarterback is going to be a superstar. He's going to be very near the top of the MVP list to start next season. They have to add some pieces on their offensive line, no doubt about it. But this is just the beginning. And if you've just watched Drake May over the last 2 weeks, 2 things have stood out. One, he looks like he's 15. Yeah. He's still a puppy.
Yeah.
So where he's just starting to hit his stride. 2, he is wired the exact right way for a franchise quarterback. They aren't going to go anywhere. New England's going to be in the story for the next decade.
Yeah, I think he's been excellent so far this season. I'm a little concerned about what we've seen in the playoffs because it was his first chance, but I think you're right. Part of this is experience that most players at this level on a team with this ability, they aren't going to get because they aren't going to be fortunate enough to advance in 3 games, all of which their offense played well enough to lose. And I think you're right about him looking so young. Like, we see this with all the quarterbacks, especially when they come in the league. They look a little funny. They figure out their haircut. Then all of a sudden, they're a lot more sophisticated. He ain't even got the haircut
He got
figured
no
out
money yet for
he
it.
ain't got the haircut
Let him
figured out
get
yet.
some money.
Once he figures out the haircut, he's going to figure out the playoffs.
Dan figured out his haircut.
Eventually.
It didn't take him that long. Here's the thing about the Patriots in general. They got more snaps out of rookies than any team that ever made the Super Bowl. Yeah. So all this ahead of schedule stuff, I completely agree with. It's not a team that anyone expected to be here. They won 4 games last year.
Yeah, but
the only thing I'll say is I'm old enough to remember when Dan Marino, who was 35 days younger than Drake May is, went to the Super Bowl, and I remember thinking, oh, he's going to get back here 5 more times.
20 years later, Joe Burrow was the same guy. Oh, we're going to see him every year. I think he's been to the playoffs 1 time since.
And I'm going to bet money right now that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills